This parak gives us a ton of geography. The coming prakim will go into greater detail regarding some of the battles and others not. The overview here is not simply meant to be a show of how powerful David was and how many places he managed to conquer and subdue. There's a very specific goal to the geography of the parak and the important messages it hints at. We start with Plishtim. Until now, David pushed them back until Gezer, basically pushing them back to their coastal enclave. Now, David extends his control over them even in their own territory. This is really quite an achievement. Next up is Moab. In this case, however, they aren't just conquered and controlled like the Plishtim. Ask people who they think the greatest biblical enemy of the Jews was, and they're probably going to say the Plishtim. We've discussed the mixed relationship we had with them, but still, there's no question that they caused us a ton of trouble. Moab? Not a big deal, right? We spare them as Hashem told us to in the times of Moshe and Yoshua. Sure, they caused us some trouble in the Shoftim period, and Eglon has the nerve to come in and take Yericho, but Ehud puts a stop to it, and they don't reach any further into the land. Meaning, how can you compare that with all the sorrows that the Plishtim caused us, and how they tried every which way to break into our heartland at every opportunity in order to control us? Yet, the Plishtim get taken over, and Moab gets slaughtered like no one else we've ever seen by David. What happened here? Chazal helped fill in the blank. We hear of David bringing his family to Moab and then leaving them there as Gad Navi tells him to return. But then we never hear of them again. The brutal ending that David allots them would seem to be retribution for not protecting his family and perhaps even publicly torturing them to death. At every opportunity, these descendants of Lot who chose Sodom continue their evil ways, the exact opposite of the hospitality that we learn from Avram Avinu. We come out of Mitzrayim, wander in the desert without any intention to cause them any harm, yet they wouldn't help us at all. We couldn't do anything, but this time they made a mistake. Hashem's command not to take over the lands of the descendants of Esav and Lot was while we're taking the lands from the Canaanim. But if they attack us, and now we're on the defense, all bets are off, and we can even push back all the way until they're under our control. It reminds me a bit of how the world thinks that the Green Line of pre-67, the Six-Day War, is a holy line that must become a so-called Palestinian state. They conveniently forget that we offered them a state numerous times, including right from our independence in 1948. The area that was illegally occupied after that by Jordan, who could have given them a state as well if they had wished. Instead, they still simply wanted to wipe us out and push us into the sea, because statehood alone never was and still isn't their goal. Once they put us on the defense and we pushed back and took over the area, all bets are off. Now you lost it. You want a state? Happily. Move to Jordan or Sinai. And make no mistake, a society that watches and does nothing, and certainly if they cheer and help conspire, is to be dealt with severely as well, even if not every individual took part in all parts of the atrocities. Following this, we have Hadadezer ben Rehov of Tzova and Aram Damasek, who came to help them. This extends David HaMelech's control all the way to Nahar Prat. Melech Hamat comes to make a treaty as well, as he was helped by David's war against Aram, and at this point, probably also realized that it would be a good idea to be on his good side. From there to Edom, which he also takes over. When we look at how far David extended the borders through these various battles, it reminds us of the Gvulot HaHavtacha, or the promised borders in the Torah. For example, in Shemot, where it says, V'shati et gvulcha miyam suf v'ad yam plishtim umimidbar ad hanahar. And I'll put your borders from Yam Suf all the way to the Plishti Sea, meaning the Mediterranean, and from the desert all the way to the Nahar, meaning Nahar Prat. David started with the Plishtim, Miyam, settling to the west on the Mediterranean coast, and continued all the way through Edom on the coast of Yam Suf. That's Yam Suf Vad Yam Plishtim. And Amalek of the Midbar, along with the Edom, who often made their way into the Negev, all the way through the area of Aram and towards Nahar Prat. This could also be seen through the description of the borders in Brit Bein HaBetarim and Sefer Bereshis. Mi Nahar Mitzrayim, Ara Nahar Gadol, Nahar Prat. Shaul had conquered Amalek throughout the Negev, all the way up to and including Wadi El Arish. At least some Amaleki clans must have continued to exist, and it seems that as Shaul had to go north to fight the Plishtim, some had begun to creep back in, leading to the events of Beit Ziklag and David coming back to continue Shaul's work in the area. From the Amalekim by Nahar Mitzrayim all the way through Nahar Prat fulfills this description as well. In other words, besides the important security concerns, these battles expanded the borders to the expansive borders described in the Torah. Some of these battles were thrust upon David HaMelech, and while they ended in incredible achievements, he may not have set out towards them on his own to begin with. Others, perhaps not. But interestingly, besides the vast land now under David's control, there's another element of success that's emphasized throughout the parak: the great wealth that was amassed throughout each of the campaigns and treaties. Is that the point? The Psukim point out that he purposely disabled the horses so that he wouldn't go against Mishpat HaMelech of the Torah that states that a Jewish king is not to amass horses. But the same applies to amassing wealth. So why emphasize that as if it's a positive thing? The answer certainly seems to appear in Pasuk Yud Aleph, where it clearly states that it was amassed as hektish, to be sanctified and donated to Hashem. Imagine how David must have felt. After all his efforts, he's told that he won't be able to be the one to build the Beis HaMikdash. Some people perhaps would be broken. They've reached their limits. There's no further peak to continue to climb towards. Hashem only lets you get so far. Kind of like by Moshe Rabbeinu bringing us so close and not being able to complete the mission and cross us over into the land. We each have our mission, and yet each have our Mount Navo. Lo alecha melacha ligmor, v'lo ata ben chovin libatel mimena. David HaMelech is told he won't be the one to continue and build the Beis HaMikdash. So does he sit around in his bathrobe and slippers from then on? No way. He gets right back to work. He may not be the one to actually build the Beis HaMikdash, but he'll continue to do everything he can in preparation for it. That includes acquiring the location and amassing the needed materials as we find in this parak. When really looking to do good, not simply seeking acknowledgement and honor, then we find what to continue to do, and through it, find continued meaning along the way.